I think the song they played for us was Computer Blue
Right.
for us to dance to, and we did it like 30 seconds of that thing. And he was like, that's good enough. And then he, with no smile on his face, no expression. And we're like, did he even like it? You know what I mean? And we walked out of the room and we heard the little laughing and whatever's going on. And we was like, okay. And
Right.
Alan came out, he says, hey, so we're going to put you guys on the balcony.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. And so
Right.
that's where y'all going to be the rest of the movie. Like, we're in.
My next guest on Musicians Reveal is an outstanding performer. He toured and recorded with Prince for 3 major tours and various performances through the years in the 90s. We saw him in concert many times. Choreographer, producer, soon to be author, inspirational speaker,
Yeah.
and one of the keystones of the Minneapolis sound and the movement that still exists. We got to welcome once again. It's been too long. I checked
Yeah.
2004. That's incredible.
It's
Sorry
been a
about that.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, Damon Dickson, Damon D, and Damon Day Ware. I forgot to mention designer
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The day they wear. Yeah.
So how you been doing?
I've been all right, man. Just like I said, laying low, just trying to, living life and just trying to navigate through the next phase of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, since you were high profile in the music industries, a lot has changed.
In the 90s, man, I mean, you got to look at where we came from. We were just dancing and trying to get in that scene. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then through our navigating through things, we started realizing dancing was just one thing that we had to have, and you had to have music and do be able to move forward in that stuff. So what I look at the music back then to now, wow, it's a big change from what it used to be. With I see the artists out now that are just, it seems like, not saying they're one hit wonders, but it's like hit or miss on what's really out there. What
Yeah. Yeah, you came from a different era of rehearsal and hard work and tax
yeah,
on your
man,
body and mind and everything, and time
yeah,
and family
man,
and everything like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So let's go back to the early days of Minneapolis and your family. Were you born in Minneapolis?
No, I was born in a little town called Lubbock in Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I grew up partly down there. We moved to Minnesota. I think I was about 11,
Okay.
about 9 or 11 years old, and moved to Minnesota. My father had a brother that went up there, and that's what brought us up to Minnesota. So and then from that point on, it was a year in Minnesota, a year back in Texas, a year in Minnesota, a year
Oh,
back
wow.
in Minnesota. So it was almost like I was an army brat without
Yeah,
being
yeah.
an army thing.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
finally, I think after my 8th grade year in Texas, my mother wanted to move back to Minnesota in 1975, and we moved back to Minnesota at that point, and I think that's where we stayed from that point on. So I grew up the rest of my life from 1975 on forward. So
Where'd you grow up in Minneapolis?
North Minneapolis,
Oh,
North Minneapolis.
you're the original. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
We hear so much about Northside Mini and the
Yeah.
community and everything. And what was it like at that age and getting into music and dancing? How
Wow.
was it?
Hey, Minnesota was such a different, and from what I know now, we had, I mean, it was just easy going. You could have, you could go to the park, play ball all day long, do all those other things. I mean, we used to have house parties.
Right.
My mother allowed me to have a house party,
Wow.
and we used to, have those little house parties. You could go down to North Commons Park, which was on the weekend. They'd have like a disco. All the
Mhm.
kids that could come there, teenage kids
Yeah.
partying at North Commons Park. Getting the opportunity to be at all the Battle of the Bands, North Side, the Way. which was ran by a guy named Spike Moss, who
Yeah, got
like
honored, right?
created this atmosphere for everybody to just come have fun on a, like on them special days. And it was incredible, man. We didn't have a care in the world. It was, we didn't have, a bunch of people mad at each other or doing crazy stuff or any of that stuff. So it was a different time. And,
Right. Yeah, we had Andre Simone on a couple months ago, and
yeah,
he had mentioned Spike Moss, and he came back. His mom was honored with a street in
I went
yeah.
up there for that.
Oh,
Yes.
you did? Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Very cool, man. Very cool. Bernadette was a big staple in Minneapolis, man. She was, very welcoming to all the kids. Everybody knew who she was. Um, and it was well deserving for her to get that and to celebrate, that day. Andre put together a great little thing. Yeah, I saw some of the show that he put together, and it was cool. He had a bunch of people, from all over, and then plus they did all the honoring of his mother. It was
Right.
real nice, man. Real nice. Couldn't ask for a better day. It was sunshine and
Wow.
lots of people that you grew up knowing all of these people, and everybody was seeing you, and it's like, hey, what's up? And so it was surreal to go back and see that and feel that. So
And all the reminiscing, like, hey, you remember this, remember that?
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Yeah, man. And like the Battle of the Band type thing, you know what I mean? It's like they had a stage put up and it just brought back those memories, man.
right. Yeah, I hear so much. I mean, when Flight Time and Grand Central, all the battle. I hear a battle of the bands so many times. How about for dance crews back then? Was it the same?
There were just a few, man. Not a whole lot. There was a group called I think they called RAM or whatever they called. It was a little rap group that did dance stuff. And I think we kind of brought that to the front when we started getting out there, because we
Right,
started getting opportunities to do things in different places, man, different some out in the suburbs and different stuff. And people would call us to come like teach dance classes when we found out that we did Purple Rain and all that. So
right,
back then, dance crews were just, around the neighborhood, different guys. I actually had two guys I went to high school with, I started with doing little dance stuff, because we
hmm,
thought we were, the stuff. I had met a brother from Chicago who came. Um, and so he was teaching me how to do Chicago bop.
ah, okay,
And so we're learning that kind of dance, and I'm showing him the stuff I did when I was in Texas, and we did that. And fast forward, moving through high school, is when I met Tony.
okay, yeah.
And it was really
Tony
funny
Mosley,
because
yeah,
his boys came to me and said, we were playing Hot Hands. Remember the game Hot Hands?
yeah, yeah, vaguely, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we were playing that, and that's how I met Tony.
Oh, okay, playing
And
hot hands,
yeah, playing hot hands at lunchtime at school in the dead of winter,
right?
outside, cold hands. That was it was crazy. But then that's how I met Tony. And then after we graduated school, Tony went into the military.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Yeah, I read about
and
that. Yep.
then I was, by that time I figured out my high school career was over playing basketball, playing sports and stuff, because I thought I was going to play basketball.
Okay.
I was pretty good. I'll just say, not trying to toot my horn, but I play.
Right, right.
I
And can
play
still
basketball, play
right,
football, play
right,
baseball, all that stuff, and um, had a kid my senior year in high school, and that kind of cut everything out.
right, right.
Um,
Yeah.
got
Changes.
blackballed by some coaches and stuff. So was living my life at that time and moved down to these apartment complex where Tony lived with his mother. And
Mhm.
we happened to run into each other, and he was talking about going down to First Avenue. And that's how the dance stuff started getting created between me and him. So,
Well, so first app before Prince set up shop. I mean, he did some shows there, but setting up shop for the movie. How much in advance did you go down there and we're dancing, making a name
oh
for
man,
yourselves?
we went down there quite a bit. I mean, we were down there for all the little dance contests. So they used to have the Great Pretenders night, so you could go down there and be Little Richard or James Brown
Right,
or whoever you was trying to be.
right.
And then they had a dance contest, during that week as well. And you come down there and you win a little prize and stuff. And
Hmm.
um, we went down there. Tony had asked me about going down. excuse me, me and him went down and checked it out, one time with some friends of ours, and he was like, "Man, we could do that." And, I know you still dance, and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." I mean,
Right.
and we winded up talking about it, and yeah, we figured we'd go down there and get in that contest. Now, mind you, like I said, the Battle of the Band stuff was still happening in North Minneapolis, and
Mhm.
they always have the little festival was held right behind our apartment complex.
Oh, okay.
And so we did a couple things down there at First Avenue, so people started knowing who we were. And we got to actually, me and Tony did a little dance at one of the Battle of the Bands outside and stuff. So little cool thing, and so it was real interesting how we got started. But like, we went down and won that contest about, I think we won about 3 or 4 times.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And then we got bumped off by Kirk and his group.
Oh, really? What was the name of his group?
His group was V Train.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They were pretty good, man. So and once they beat us, then we found out about Prince getting ready to do that Purple Rain thing down there. We were like, oh, okay. And so
Did he know you by then, or he didn't know?
no, no, no. He didn't know any of us. We
Okay.
knew who he was. I mean, everybody knew who Prince was at that point. I
Right.
mean, we were just kind of um, going through the motions of just coming down there performing and stuff. But everybody, I mean, we knew Prince from the neighborhood,
Mhm.
the Battle of the Band stuff, growing up there, what have you. Um, and those were, them days was like, you know who people are, and you just don't. I mean, we just kind of knew everybody in the community. I mean, Jelly Bean and Terry and Jimmy and them. I mean, Jimmy used to be a DJ at one of the discos that we used to go to
Yeah.
downtown.
Right. Right.
So that's how I first saw him and stuff. And yeah, so we got that opportunity to do Purple Rain. It's like this lady asked us about being a part of it, and we were like, cool. We thought, hey, we get a chance to be in this movie. We'll come to find out later, we weren't really going to be in the movie. We were going to help people get picked to be on the set.
Oh, that that had to piss you off.
Oh man, we were sitting there like, what do you mean pick people to be on the set?
Right. Right.
And it was crazy, but we wind up doing it. We like, all right, if that's the way to get a foot in, we're gonna go down here and do this thing. And
Right.
and I think that went on for a couple of days, and then one of the downtimes we was like, yo, man, we went in the bathroom and started dancing and doing things, and he walked in on us and stuff. So
Right.
and we thought we were gonna be in trouble. It was like he walked in with Chick and looked and just stood there. And we were like, so we kept dancing. We didn't
Yeah.
stop,
Right.
even though
Right.
it's supposed to be a downtime, it was supposed to be a quiet time and all that stuff. But, we were kind of doing our thing. You know what I mean? That's
Yep.
what we wanted to do was dance. So he leaves. And while everybody was still dancing, I walked outside the bathroom and I looked down to where he was. It was over one of the rails. And I'm like,
Okay.
oh man, who is he talking to? And he's talking to this guy who I found out later is Alan Lead, who was his
Oh, okay.
manager at the time.
Yep. Right.
And he points up there, and I'm like, oh shit, he's finna come up here and stuff. And dude walks up, he said, hey, you want to do that was dancing in the bathroom? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was funny because
Yeah. Right.
then he's like, oh, well, the kid wants to know if y'all do something for him. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. We can do something. He's like, yeah, he said you would know who the other guys were. And I'm like, yeah, I can let him know and stuff. And he walked away, man. And Tony came out the bathroom and I pulled him. I said, hey, man, some dude just came up to me and was talking about us doing something in the movie. And he said, what? He said, man, what are you kidding, man? I'm like, no, for real, dude. He's getting ready to go get a cassette and bring it back to me. He's like, yeah, well, when he get that, man, let me know. I'm gonna be down here trying to get in this scene.
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm like, all right, whatever. And before the night was out, Alan came back with a cassette and handed it to me. And me and Tony were standing there, and I'm like, he walks away, and I thought, I told you, dude. He's like, oh, he said, so what do we want? I said, look, he said, there's 7 songs on here, man. And he said, get the guys that was in the bathroom. Well, there was about 8 of us in there. So,
Okay.
we kind of picked the ones who we were thought he may have talked about and stuff. So it was me, Kirk, Tony, a guy named Scott,
Okay.
a guy named Everett Kimbrough. So it was us five. And we went on and did the little thing. So the next day, that night, I stayed, go back that night, we left the set.
Hmm.
And when we went home, we went over to Tony's mother's house, her 2-bedroom apartment.
Right.
So we're on the second floor and
Uh-huh.
we're up there, getting our little groove on in this apartment. And his mom was, she's like, what's all this noise out here? And we like, oh, we're trying to put together these new things. She's like, y'all better not be too loud because it was, it's 1 a.m.
Yeah, you got neighbors below and above.
Got neighbors below, and we up here blasting this cassette.
Right.
And so we wind up doing that, and we got the tape finished and went on down there the next morning. We had to go back to the set, and the rest of it was history, man. He asked us to come in to go show them guys the routine.
Hmm.
I think we did. I think the song they played for us was Computer Blue
Right.
for us to dance to, and we did it like 30 seconds of that thing. And he was like, that's good enough. And then he, with no smile on his face, no expression. And we're like, did he even like it? You know what I mean? And we walked out of the room and we heard the little laughing and whatever's going on. And we was like, okay. And
Right.
Alan came out, he says, hey, so we're going to put you guys on the balcony.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. And so
Right.
that's where y'all going to be the rest of the movie. Like, we're in.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah, you're on the balcony. And tell us about the outfits and the particular moves you did during the Purple Rain scenes that you're
The
in.
outfits were, well, me and Tony had an outfit made. Everybody's kind of stuff was individual. Kirk had whatever him and V Train had on.
Hmm.
Me and Tony had on these, they were like military jackets, and we
Right.
had little mirrors put on them
Hmm.
on the shoulders and stuff. And I think Everett had on something different, and Scott had on something different. So him and Kirk, Scott and Kirk had the same thing on. Me and Tony had the same thing on, and Everett was just the freelance guy that had whatever. So, but you couldn't tell. I mean, in the show, you just see silhouette. You don't see
Right.
what we
Right.
had on. Um, and we did like Computer Blue. We did Modern Air
Oh, okay. Yeah. With Des.
by
Yeah.
that Des Dickinson did.
Right.
Um, and we just, did The Time, The Bird, Jungle Love, all that. We did all them songs.
Right. So when the movie's released, where did you see it the first time, and obviously you were excited. Where did you go, and how many family
Well,
members went along?
I didn't, none of my family went, but we initially was supposed to see it in Hollywood for the premiere,
Oh, at the Chinese Man Theater. Yeah.
and that got cut out. Uh,
Oh, okay.
we got told we actually got told we were going out there and we were going to lip sync a new song for him.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Tell us about this. So I've
So
heard you or someone tell it. Yeah.
Scott, what was it? Uh,
Maserati.
Erotic City.
Oh, Roddick City. Yeah.
So we rehearsed for that, and then we were supposed to go out there and we were supposed to walk the red carpet, get a chance to see the whole movie, all that stuff with all the celebrities. And we got out there, and yeah, we got that call and said, "Oh, we can't bring you guys to that, but we're still
Ah,
gonna have you guys do the show, do the after party." And we were
right.
like, "Okay, all right, whatever."
Uh huh.
And we wound up doing that. So we did the after party. But my first time seeing the movie, me and Tony went downtown to this place called the Skyway, which was the
Okay.
theater that everybody went to that's in North Minneapolis. Um, and we watched the movie there after it
Yeah.
came out. So,
Yeah. Were you guys pointing out, that's us, that's us, that's us?
well, no, we were just kind of sitting there trying to see how much of it we were going to actually be in, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And we noticed that there was a lot that we didn't get seen in. It was just like, I mean, but it
Right.
was cool because we got to see parts that, like, Tony's in a part at the Taste,
Mhm.
at the club called the Taste, where Vanity or Apollonia 6 played,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
or Vanity 6 in the movie, what they was both in. But
Right.
um, he was in a part in that section. I was in this part at First Avenue, right by the front door when Chick um, kicked wouldn't let Vanity in or Apollonia in,
Right.
and she put her foot in the door. Well, I was in that scene that you could only see part of me. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So we were just kind of picking out parts where we knew we were supposed to be and
Right.
stuff. But yeah, first time seeing it was at the Skyway Theater downtown Minneapolis.
Wow. And at that time, you guys, I'm sure you were thinking, okay, we're in the fold. When's he taking us
Well,
out?
we just kind of we knew we did the movie and we kept thinking, man, this might be an opportunity. Maybe he'll take us on the road,
Right.
you know. And we were called out quite a bit to come to just rehearsal stuff.
Yeah, you had a lot of promises and things didn't pan out.
Yeah, it
Tell us
was
about that
always, hey,
process.
come out here and do this and that. And we're like, yeah, all right, all right. And we come out there, dance around, because that's what he wanted us doing. And then there was a couple times we were asked about, y'all want to go on the road type stuff. And then he'd go, psych,
Oh, really? Just like that?
just like that,
Wow.
just like that.
Wow.
But it was all in fun. We kind of, thought we were going to be going out at different times, but it just never came about. I think the last time we got that sight thing done to us, um, we looked up and Jerome, Wally, and Brooks were the three dancers.
Was this
And
for the hit and run tour or Sign of the Times?
that was the sign of the time thing, I think it
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
And we were just like, what? Hold on a second.
Because you had
We out
rehearsed
there
the
all this
songs, right?
time and we ain't gonna be in this thing.
Wow.
So, I remember that time real. I mean, it's so great. We saw that and we went down to this place called Natkins, which was a restaurant downtown, and we were like in our feelings about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we went down there to, get us one of these things called a Wonder Punch, which was this big alcoholic drink.
Okay.
And we each one of us drunk one of those, and they were huge. And went over the Glam Slam, and we were dancing. And man, that should have been us.
Right.
It
Whoever,
was
yeah,
hilarious.
right. Did Prince come by that night, the Glam Slam?
No,
Probably a good thing.
yeah, probably a good thing because we were a little tipsy and
Yeah, right.
like in our feelings. But
Right.
it just at that point we kind of realized like, well, man, we need to be doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
We got to figure out something else to do. So we started incorporating playing music.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kirk was already a drummer,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Tony was kind of just writing stuff in a notebook, so to speak. So we started trying to create our own little image. We put together a band and we called the band MPLS.
Right.
And it was a abbreviation for the name Multi-Talented Players Laying Sound.
Oh, okay.
So that's where the name came from. So we winded up doing that. And we started, we solicited some guys that we knew who played music and brought them in. And we played, and like Kirk knew this guy named Billy McLaughlin, who was a good guitar player who was absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just started putting together this nucleus of this group. And Kirk's sister, Kathleen, and two of his sisters, they were helping us with background vocals and that kind of stuff like that. And so we put together this band and we started doing the college circuit.
Oh, okay.
So we played some college circuit stuff here and there. Now, mind you, this is between that, 86 to 88, 89 era.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we started trying to put together all the stuff that we was trying to do as a band. And we winded up getting a couple, big shows. We did a show in Chicago for a bunch of celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey, Cheryl Pepsi Riley, and a bunch of other people.
Yep.
We did a show there. We did some stuff at the Fine Line, and we did a Christmas party for local KMOJ radio station.
Right. There was Cubby, right? Was there? Walter. Oh, Walter Banks.
Walter Banks, yes.
Yeah, DJ.
So we did
yeah.
that, and Prince came down to that.
Okay.
And we were like, we didn't know he was going to be there. So we
Right.
started putting together the show. And I mean, we absolutely killed it. And
Right.
I mean, like, we killed it. And then in the first couple songs,
Hmm.
we look over to the side and here's Prince standing over to the side of the stage talking about, and we're like, dude, we're doing a show. What are you talking about? And he's like, he sends Robin Powers, who was
Right.
working with him at the time, sends her up on stage to try to, see how professional he was. In my opinion, I think he was trying to test us to see how we would react if somebody came up on the stage.
Right. Right.
And we let her do a little thing, and then we kicked her off the stage and got back to what we was doing.
Right.
And then we finished, and he's like, you guys never said you guys played instruments and sing and do all that. It's like, you never asked. You told us to come dance.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're going to do. We dance.
Right. Right.
And we did the little dance thing, and he asked us to come out to Paisley Park. And we were like, okay,
Is
And
that the
so,
first time you had been out to Paisley?
yeah, that
Oh,
that would
okay.
have been the first time we've actually went out there. I mean, we had already did Glam Slam, the song,
Oh, okay.
out at Paisley.
Right.
So we had been out there before, but not, as he wanted us to come out there. He asked us to come out there and do that video. And
Right.
we did that video well before Graffiti Bridge and all of that stuff. So,
Mhm. So you went out there, was roughly late 89, was that?
yeah,
Yeah.
late 88, 89.
Right.
He was, he had us come and we were just kind of just sitting around waiting to see what he wanted us to do because we had no clue,
Right.
and so we're doing all this waiting. And the next day, after we stayed there the whole night, the next day I had 3 jobs at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was trying to work my jobs, and then when they
Yeah.
said they want us to come out there, I'm like, what time? Because I got I got these jobs I got to be at. So
Right. Right.
the next day we went out there again, and so we were also rehearsing for a show we had to do.
Mhm.
So we're at Kirk's house, his mom's house, and Kirk comes in and he goes, yeah. He said, man, they asked me to come back out there to be the DJ. And we're like, who told you what? And he's like, yeah. So at the time there was a guy named Cowboy who was supposed to be the DJ. I guess was going to go on the road with them as the DJ.
Mhm.
And something happened with him, and it didn't happen. So Kirk wound up being the DJ. Now Kirk's no DJ,
Right.
so it was going to be a front.
Right. Right.
So we're like, wait, what? And we leave. So the next day we go to rehearsal. We're sitting around. Kirk's sitting up in the back of the band on this thing by some
Yeah.
turntables, and we're like, what the hell's going on? So we sit there all night, and nothing happened. Nobody talked to us, no nothing. We're like, okay. So me and Tony leave, and then I'm like, dude, I ain't got time for this, dude. I got
You, ra-
2 jobs.
you ran out of sick days.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here, dude. So the next day, Tony went, and I didn't go.
Mhm.
I had to work,
Right.
and I get a call from Craig Rice.
Right. Right.
He's
Great.
like, hey man, where were you at? I'm like, at work. What do you mean, where am I at? And he's like, well, you got to be out of rehearsal tomorrow? I'm like, maybe. And he's like, well, if you need to come out, we can talk to you or whatever, da da da. And I'm like, all right, man. I said, how long is that going to take, man? Because I got to be at work, And he's like, well, just get out there at 1 o'clock and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right. So I called my job and I thought, hey, I need to, the day off to go out here and do this or whatever. I go out there and we're sitting. And then Tony goes, yeah, man, they signed me yesterday, da 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 da. And I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. And so Craig called me into his office and me and him talked, and he said, yeah, we signed the other 2 guys, and it comes to our attention that Levi talked to Prince and said it probably ain't cool if we didn't have all 3 of y'all and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, man, all right, whatever, So wind up signing a little contract and getting there. And then I was like, all right, so what time? Are we done now? He said, yeah. And I started headed toward the front door, and he goes, where you going? I'm like, dude, I gotta go to work.
Right, right.
And he's like, you got a job. I'm like, no. I mean, I got a 9 to 5. I gotta go to work. And he's like, are you crazy?
Yeah,
I'm like, no, dude. I, I gotta tell this other job I'm not gonna be able to be there, whatever.
right.
So I wind up staying the rest of the night, talked to my job the next day and told them that I was, signed to be in a band. And they're looking at me like, yeah. Okay, so when you get done with that, can you go over there and take care of it?
Yeah, right.
So that's how we all got in the band. Everybody signed different contracts at different times, but we were there as the group.
So you're on call with him for anything when you sign something like that, right? At that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, you're you're not even on call. It's like rehearsal starts at 1 o'clock, ends at
Right.
motherfucking
Okay.
7,
Right.
and you figure out from there. It's like whatever he's gonna do. So the first few days, we were just sitting around,
Hmm.
like trying to see what was happening, and he's just playing music. He's got the band playing all these different songs, and we're just sitting there. And he's like, one day, what y'all got for this? And we're like, uh, okay. So we jumping up trying to figure out a dance step, and he's like, hey, so why don't y'all give us a tape, give us a room, and we'll go put together the songs,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that we don't have to stop when y'all stopping because something ain't, you got to tweak this or tweak that.
Hmm.
And he wound up getting us a cassette tape, and we go to the other room and put together all the dance choreography that we needed for all the songs. And then when we walk back in and they start playing, we jump up whenever there was a new song and start the routine.
So working your own routines, did he pretty much let you have leeway to do whatever,
We
or did he
did.
say,
We
nah, you
did. We
might?
had full range. We had
Oh,
full
that's
range of
good.
whatever we was putting together.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Going back to then, you from a dancing background, and of course Prince, great dancer. What was your opinion of him as his style of dancing back then when you first saw him
Yeah.
rehearsing with
Well,
him?
I mean, all I knew is what I saw in Purple Rain,
Okay.
the little dance stuff he did in there. And I didn't really see him as a dancer performer type person
Hmm.
until we started, like we did the Glam Slam video. And then
Right.
we got to watching him. I'm like, oh, okay, so he picks up stuff. So as we're putting together the routines and stuff, and especially when we started getting ready to go on tour for the Nude tour,
Right.
he would come in a rehearsal, and when we were putting together dance stuff, he had, because he had cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
So he was already watching what we were doing,
Hmm.
and he was putting himself in position for whatever song it was, what he could jump into and get rolling. So, you know, for me, I thought he was great as a dancer. He had a lot of energy,
Right.
and he paid attention to everything. So he picked up stuff pretty easy, and some of the other stuff, like he knew his limit on what he was going to do with us, because he had to be singing at the same time. So, you know, I mean, there may have been 1 or 2 times we was like, "Yo, dude, this is a little bit much. You might need to, take a break up. This one, we're doing a lot of jumping and diving."
Right. Right.
So, but yeah, he paid attention, man, and he definitely surprised me as far as dance wise, the stuff that he wanted to jump in and do with us.
Now, I didn't see. I mean, I didn't see in person the new tour, but I've seen performances on video, and the kid, the sexy dancer, the three songs that go together. Man, that was some great dancing right there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
what part of the show was that? Like earlier in the show, or?
It was pretty much the early part of the shows. I mean, because as we went on through the night, dude, I mean, we, me, Tony, and Kirk was like out on every song, and I think we had wardrobe changes at least 3 times, 3 or 4 times out the show.
Right. And a big show was you ended the tour in Japan, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. Yeah, we did Japan, Australia. Uh, we did Brazil. We did quite a few places, and I mean the first tour that we went on was in Rotterdam, Holland.
Wow.
That was the first tour
Yeah.
for Nude tour, and it was pouring rain that day, man. And we thought he was gonna cancel the show.
Right. No.
Not happening. Not happening.
Very rarely was a show.
Oh no, he wasn't. He wasn't. It wasn't one of them things like, oh, it's raining. We gotta let it calm down. It was like, show's starting. It's raining. All right,
Right.
y'all ready?
Yeah.
We're doing this show.
I mean, instruments, electricity, and everything, and you guys dancing. I mean, that,
Well, they had a canopy, kind of like, we had the. And if you look at the Nude tour, there was the big uh, emblem sign above us.
right.
So they had to have something covering that. But the front of the stage where he stood
Hmm.
was out in the rain.
Wow.
And here we are dancing on the side of him on the stage, and it's wet up there. So I remember that first show, and we were getting the show opening credit coming down, me and Tony coming down this ramp
Hmm.
that was on the side of the stage. And I mean, literally, I slid to the front of the stage doing this move,
Right.
and one of them kick your leg and jumping back and kicking leg. Dude, I came down that joker and I mean just slid all the way to the front of the stage till my legs were hanging off the front of the stage, and I looked over, Prince was still going. I
Wow.
looked back to see where Tony was so I could get back on routine, jump back up on the stage. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like we're still doing this thing. So rain didn't stop. So when
Yeah.
everybody talk about the Super Bowl, when it rained, I'm like, that ain't
Yeah.
nothing.
Right. Right. Yeah. We were the originators of that.
We're originators of the rain dancing and stuff. We're gonna keep on doing.
Right. So that tour, the new tour, Michael Bland's first tour, and you guys, what a way to start your careers, like full out. That's incredible.
Michael Bland, a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Just discovered out of the clubs, playing in the clubs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. So the new tour comes to the end. You guys head back to the States. Does Prince tell you we're not gonna tour the US? Or are you
No,
left
you
in
know what? He
limbo?
never really said, anything like, hey, we're not touring the States or anything. I think he just went wherever the people were buying his music.
Oh, okay.
You
Right.
know, and I think that's pretty much with all the artists. If a place is not, that's like somebody playing in Iowa and but nobody's buying the music.
Hmm.
He's not gonna go there and put on no show because he don't feel like there's gonna be anybody buying tickets.
Yeah, which is surprising as our artist is talented, big as
Yeah,
Prince. Yeah, but I guess
I mean we
the way.
we stayed over in Europe. I mean, Jesus Christ, if I
Yeah.
think about it, I mean we did some U.S. tour when we did the Act One.
Hmm.
The Act One and Act Two tour. We did some stuff in the States for that.
Right.
And then after we did like one half, we did the East Coast. He canceled the West Coast, and then that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we was
I've
like,
o- I've only had one Prince cancellation. It was like there were two shows in Connecticut. It was Larry Graham opened up. I bought tickets for both shows, and all of a sudden they said, due to studio commitments, there's only going to be one show, and they're going to mix the ticket. I'm thinking that ain't studio commitment. This guy,
studio commitment. Wait
yeah,
a
this
minute.
he records wherever he wants. So yeah, that's what they said. But I
Pretty
probably
much,
figured
pretty
ticket
much.
sales.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't recall him ever just telling us, well, we're just gonna do this or we're just gonna do that. It just when it came up, we had to be ready.
yeah. So let's move along to Diamonds and Pearls era. Which were you involved in any of the studio recordings, or was it primarily on stage?
Um, Most of the stuff that we recorded, like he'd have all of us in there at one time.
Right.
If we did any background vocals or that kind of stuff, it would, had everybody in there. We were doing the chants, behind it, whatever, and just laid stuff. Now, there was once or twice when we had rehearsal and we finished, and then he'd call and say, "Hey, can you come back out and just lay, a vocal here?" And I'm like, I just left here 2 hours ago. What? And you're on the contract, so you go back and do whatever it is he asked you.
Right, right.
And I think I did that once or twice on some of the vocals, but for the most part of it, no, I didn't really get, you know, that opportunity to do a
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff. So when he did call, I think he was more. He had me come out there. I did some little vocals, and then we'd sit and talk.
Right, right.
you know,
So
and it was just like, I think you were just bored, nigga. You just called me out here. You
yeah,
know, which was cool because I got a chance to sit down with him and just, you know, just shooting the breeze,
right, right.
you know.
Now, the Diamonds and Pearls, another European tour, which didn't hit the States, but that was a little bit different, I guess, from the new tour. There was a lot more going on stage. The horns, you had Diamond and Pearl. I met them at a record store signing in New
Oh,
York
okay,
City.
okay,
They were doing some
okay.
promotion for that. But tell us about going to Europe and the Diamonds and Pearls tour, and what was
Well,
added for your parts in there.
the Diamond and Pearl tour rehearsal was grueling. I mean, we did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you not only went over all the Diamond and Pearl music, but any other music that he might want to use.
Right.
So choreography wise, we had to be prepared if he changed his mind, you know, the way he wanted to set up the show as
Mm-hmm.
far as music lineup. Um, and you know, so we kind of already had been through a lot through the Nude tour, with all the songs that he played on there. So um, rehearsal was, you know, every day. There was always something new. We were always trying to create something different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the most part, his mind was working on everything that you can think of, man. And we just, you know, kind of rolled with whatever he was trying to do, but he let us have you know, all realm of whatever choreography we were doing. And then he would be joining in, like certain things that we would dance, like when we did the Arsenio Hall show.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
The first rehearsal for the Diamond and Pearl stuff was the Glam Slam show. That was
Okay.
the first, like,
Oh, okay. Wow.
after everything got put together, that
Oh,
was the first time that we wanted to see what it looked like, what it was going to take, how long you know everything was, and what have you. So we were prepping everything for that.
yeah.
And
it was the Glam Slam show. I love that. I mean, you guys just I think it should. I'm sure there's plenty other shows throughout his career just like that are amazing. I got to
yeah,
ask you, you've probably been asked about the dance sequence uh, when Prince goes into push, jumps off and goes downstairs and jumps on the bar.
it jumps on the bar, man.
That wasn't planned. He didn't give you that
No,
in
that was
advance, right?
not planned. It was just
Right.
him being Prince.
And dancing high heels, a narrow bar.
Man,
You think where did he practice that?
look. So you got to remember, though. You know, he's not that big.
Right, right, right.
So him being on the bar probably, you know, maybe 2 to 3 feet
Yeah,
wide.
yeah. Right,
You know,
right,
and he's a little guy, so he ain't doing he's not doing nothing too crazy.
right, right.
You notice he didn't do no splits on them jokers.
No, that's right. Yeah. Oh, I saw his brother he was there as the bodyguard. He was somewhere in the
Yep,
bar scene,
yep.
but
Dwayne was there. Yep, yep.
yeah, yeah. So that was just amazing. And when you first saw that, when it was first released, is that the first time you saw the actual concert?
Yeah. So when they said they were doing it, and then they sent it out, I was like, you know, so in 2022, um, Kirk put together this big thing out at Paisley for us to come back and do that original show.
Okay.
That was the first time I actually seen the footage from that part.
Wow.
And it's funny because Kirk had messaged me and told me that, you know, he's thinking about doing this and he hopes everybody can get on board and whatever. And he, you know, was trying to, and I initially told Kirk, I don't know if I want to do it or whatever, because I was at that time dealing with the MPG
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and how they were acting. And, you know, it was just, you know, they had cut me out of being a part of their little tour and stuff. And I just was like, whatever, man,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I heard about
And I
that. Yeah.
told Kirk, I said, I didn't know. And he said, well, man, he said, you can't do this. We can't do this if you're not there. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, he said, you're in all this footage.
Right. Right.
If we're going to do Prince on a big screen, you're in all this footage.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. And he's like, so I cannot do this if you're not there.
Right.
So what are we going to do when your pipes come up? And then I was like, well, Rosie's not there. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of a little different. and I was like, okay. So that's the first time I'd actually seen the footage of it because he
Right.
had me come over. I went over to his house and we sit down and he showed me, and I'm like, all right, man. I said, I'm in there, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll do it because you're asking me. I said, other than that, if it had been anybody else, I'd have still said no. And he said, yeah. And I think Kirk was just trying to do something that was different
Hmm.
from all the other stuff that was happening at Paisley Park at the time.
Right.
And he wanted to bring that element of Prince on the big screen right behind the band playing live, playing exactly what's on the screen and putting all that together. So that was the first time I actually saw it. So,
Yeah. I mean, you're part of, that's right up there with the tops of Prince concert releases I've seen. I could watch that over and over and over.
yeah, I watched it. I haven't like sit and watched the whole show,
Yeah.
but
Right.
I've watched bits and pieces of it.
Right.
What I'd love to see is the one we did in 2022 that they had out at Paisley. I know somebody has that on video somewhere.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I just wanted to. I'd love to see what that looked like. With that him being on the screen behind us.
Right. Right. Now, let me ask you around that era, a few of the dance routines that I really loved was you mentioned Arsenio Hall with, Kiss and, you guys surrounding Prince and, he's in the middle of you guys. Who came up with that routine? Because that's, you take that little
That's
two
us.
minute, yeah, the
That's
2 minute
us.
part of that song. That's got to be in the Prince highlight reel.
Yeah, that's all. That's all me, Tony, and Kurt, choreography wise.
Hmm.
I mean, he would always tell us he want to see something different. Can you guys come up with something creative? And that's what we came up with. Um, One of the moves we did when we did the Ride Divine,
Hmm.
where it was thing where I would do a handstand over Tony's shoulder and he grabbed my legs. And
Yeah.
Kurt would grab the front of my legs and
Yep.
we'd do like a teeter-totter thing.
Yeah, that's the one I was that's
So Prince wanted to do that.
right.
So here, with me, Tony, and Kurt, it balanced out weight-wise.
Right.
Well, Prince wants to be the person in the front doing all this craziness. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so used to Prince Kirk's weight on
Right.
my legs. So when Prince got on it, it was kind of like, whoa, and I was begging Tony. I was like, man, please don't let go of my legs when he jumped down. Because you talk about would look crazy on film. I'm like, yeah, so but he definitely liked all the stuff that we did. And he
Yeah.
always wanted to be involved in some of the dance stuff, which was, for me, it was like that was a testament of what we were doing that he liked.
How about the puppet marionette
Yeah,
scenario where you guys are dancing
man,
and he's
yeah, he loved that too.
how
Yeah,
difficult was that to coordinate? Because I mean, you
it
guys aren't
wasn't because
singing
we were already doing the moves. So
Okay.
all he did was jump up there because he, like I said, he paid attention and he watched everything we did.
Oh, okay.
And so when we started doing it, he automatically ran and jumped on the riser and was,
So it was up to him to get
yeah,
in
to
sync
do
with
the
you
do
guys.
like what pipe gonna the marionette what he's gonna do. Yeah, he did that himself. That was his creation of like, oh, I'm gonna do this.
Right, right. Which was real nice. Now another
Yeah.
one, which even people who aren't like Prince fans know, when did the MTV performance when he had his ass hanging out,
Oh my God.
and you were the guy who started off, and you were face down. Tell us about the preparations before. Were you alerted this was going to be
No,
happening,
we
and what was your reaction?
there was no forewarning. There was no. We rehearsed that thing over and over and over, and just the landing on him, all the whole how we were supposed to do it. And that day, we come out the dressing room. We had our little prayer on the side. Came up on the stage. He had a long coat on,
Oh,
and we're
okay.
sitting there going, okay. And that scream went out,
Yeah.
and that jacket went off, and we looked, and I'm standing there like, and they, D, you gotta fall. I'm like, oh snap. So I'm falling on this dude, and I'm trying my best not to look at his butt.
Right.
Because I didn't at the time I didn't know they had sold in some piece of it, the
Yeah,
cloth
yeah.
that looked like it. But at the same time, I'm thinking this boy got his ass out, and I fall on him, and I'm like, And if you go back and look at that, Joe,
Yeah.
if you go back and look at that particular thing, and then watch that part when we sliding off of him, you can
Mhm.
see me trying not to look like,
Yeah. I saw you're like,
like what the fuck is he doing here? Damn it!
now after the performance backstage, did you guys have a laugh about it or he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
We were
Yeah.
like, dude, because when we rehearsed it, we were out there in LA and we rehearsed it, and the people from the MTV came to check it out to make sure there wasn't nothing crazy gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Right.
And so he just played it off. And when we came off stage, we're like, dude, did you really just do that?
Right. Well, everybody, the morning talk shows all are talking about, I'm sure.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I could imagine. I mean, I
Mission
got slack from
accomplished.
it coming home. People talking about, man, you fall on his butt. Like, it's work.
Thankfully, it was a one-time only thing, right?
It's a one-time only thing. We're not
Right.
doing that every night.
I wanted to talk about actually with the rest of the dance in act number one, which I saw two shows at Radio City Music Hall. You went on tour, which was great performances. And, I went one of the nights Madonna was there, and
Oh
tell us
yeah,
about that tour. I mean, you finally hit the States properly and
yeah,
did a tour like that.
yeah.
What was that tour like?
Oh man, it was pretty cool, man. The getting that opportunity again. We never really got a chance to go to the West Coast.
Right.
It was mostly on the East, and it was. We took a lot of stuff from the Diamond and Pearl stuff and placed in that whole thing, and it was just, and some of the new music that was being brought out and stuff. So, it was cool, man, because we had Diamond and Pearl with us on that,
Mm-hmm.
and I get getting talked to about that show because there was one section where Diamond and Pearl both jump on me, and I'm walking with one on my back and one in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and he says something about Damon had a pimp sandwich tonight or some
Yeah.
shit. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm walking with these two girls on the stage,
Right.
and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And
But it
my
was it was it was cool because we got a chance to do the West Coast stuff. I mean the East Coast stuff and Radio City Music. I mean that was the first time we've been there. I'm like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it was great. And I think I told you when we were doing the on the Electric Vibe with Cat tribute that
Yeah, yeah,
uh I saw Prince wipe out during, I think it was Scandalous Insatiable, when the
yeah,
before he had the pearls were coming down,
yeah.
but he was up in a flash,
And that's what happened. He jumps back on it, and that just shows a testament to his professional side of him.
Right.
You don't just lay there. You got to get up and the show
Yeah,
must go on.
exactly. Yeah. Um, as far as getting into other stuff, was that the last, or you did act two, right?
We did act two, but it was very brief.
Yeah, right. Now,
Very brief.
why did that change?
You know what? I don't really recall why he changed his mind.
Mhm.
I know that he was having a bunch of stuff going on with Warner Brothers during that time.
Right. Yeah.
With the whole name change and all that. They were being assholes toward him or whatever. But
Right.
he, you know, in my opinion, he wasn't wrong for what he was trying to do. He's like, you're gonna tell me I can't use my God-given name, and you're trying to take it from me, and anything I do, you want to take all the money from it and all that. Yeah, he
Yeah.
started schooling us on what it is, that business, and I think we all kind of paid attention to how much that was impacting what he was and what he was trying to do, his creativity.
Right.
Wanting to be in the studio, put out when he get ready, not
Yeah.
when you tell me to get ready. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
So that in itself was a testament. And then, here we are, watching this stuff go down and going, okay. And, you learn. If you
Mhm.
pay attention, you were learning do's and don'ts.
Right. So does it take its toll? I mean, did you see it as far as him dealing all this and then
Oh yeah,
relating it to the band? Yeah. What kind
yeah,
of you noticed
yeah,
the change, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, you know, there's days where he would come in and he was something on his mind, and you just kind of was like, okay, so you just rolling with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you had the days where he would laugh and loaf off and jack off and stuff like, just talking crazy, being goofy. And
Right.
then there was the days, like I said, it was hit or miss what person you was getting that day.
Right. Right.
But he had a few people that he'd be one day he'd be the laughing jokey prince, and this day would be the real business prince. This day would be the hey, let's have let's do your mama jokes at each
Right.
other.
Right.
And this day don't say nothing. It's like business.
Right.
So you never knew who you were getting when he walked in the room. You had to wait for him to walk in and be paying attention, like, okay, who we got today?
Yeah. Well, you
So
guys are spending so much time together and on the road and like your family and everything. And yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you got so many different personalities. Everybody's different. That's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And him being the biggest personality of all of us and stuff, and always said whenever people ask like, well, how was it working with him? How do you deal? What was the biggest thing you take from him? It's like, man, he was definitely a professional, first and foremost,
Hmm.
businessman. He paid attention to everything. He knows how to handle his business, so forth, is what we're gonna do with that. He watched everything. There
Hmm.
was nothing he didn't know from who was. I don't care what part you played in his camp. If you were a lighting guy, if you were a technician, the dancer, the guitar player, the bass player, he knew everybody's part. There wasn't
Okay.
nothing that he didn't know. He was that chef. It's like I'm gonna put it in this term. If he was Emerald Lagasse,
Right.
the cook,
Right.
he's got people sitting over here chopping up all this stuff for him. And people, you
Hmm.
chop up the onions, you chop up over here, you make
Yep.
sure this is there, you make sure this, and I'm making sure that it all comes into this pot, and we finna make this thing be funky.
Right. Right. And he succeeded.
And that's what he did. I mean, and I looked at that with us and go, man, he's been doing that with all the other bands too.
Yeah. Yeah. When's the last time you saw Prince? Had interaction with
Um,
him?
Last time I actually saw him face to face was 2 years before he passed.
Oh, okay.
We were I went out to Paisley Park with a friend of mine who had asked me. She came into town and she wanted to go out there, and I
Mhm.
initially told her no, and I was like, yeah, I'll go out there. And we wound up going out there, and they were having some little dance party slash he was gonna play later type thing, and we were just kind of hanging out. Before that year, I had already, like, I think he had messaged me. I had been going out there prior to that, like a year and a half prior to that, was
Mhm.
just going out there because he was just, he messaged me, hey, what are you up to? You want to come out, or da da da? And I would just go out there and hang out, and just me and him. We would, shoot a little pool, talk crazy. And he tried to talk me into playing ping pong. I was like, nope, I'm good. You ain't gonna beat me like that. So so we would just talk about life stuff, man. So
Right.
we did that quite a bit. He was trying to pull me into that Jehovah Witness thing, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But we talked about Bible, we talked about life and all that
Right.
stuff, and then he had found out I was dating this woman who told me she was getting a divorce and she didn't. And so when we were talking religious stuff, he says to me, hey, uh, until you change that, we can't do this Bible talk no more stuff. And I was like, I didn't ask to do this in the first place.
Yeah. Right. Right. You were just kind of, uh-oh, man,
And,
something.
and I
Yeah.
said, I'm just being honest. He said, well, you need to fix that. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then I left, and then I started trying to do this book thing back then.
Right.
And
Right.
I wound up asking him if he, was cool with it or whatever. Uh, Come to find out later that somebody had already presented it to him.
Your
The
book,
girl
your
that I
book.
had helping me write had
Oh,
presented it to Larry Graham, and I think Larry wound up showing it to him. And then when I finally got my chance to sit down with him. Like we were at the Kingdom Hall, which was down the street from Paisley.
Okay.
He gave, we came out and I was like, hey man, I'm doing this book and I want you to check it out, da da da. And so I handed it to him and he looks at it and he says, oh, book, huh? And I was like, yeah. And he leaves. And then he called me back in like 2 minutes and said, hey, are you still there? And I'm like, yeah. He said, I'm coming back. And I'm like, cool. And he comes back and he goes, in the car, get in the car. I was like, all right. And I sit down and he goes, so why are you doing this? And I said, because I got kids and I'd love for my kids and my grandkids, future grandkids, if there was something to come out, I'd love for them to see what I was doing all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't think you should do it. And I'm like, huh? And then he went into this scenario about vanity and whoever else was trying to write a book at that time. And I was going, what? I
Yeah.
was confused. I'm like, and he's like, yeah, and plus you signed a contract that said you would never talk about what we did. And I'm going, and mind you, at that time, it had been 10 or 15 years since I had been in the band. I'm going, huh? And he
Yeah.
goes, I said, you know what, dude? I said, no matter what, dude, if you don't want me to write this, it's fine. I said, but you have to understand something, dude. I don't even think you read what I had in there. And he said, I read the first 2 pages. I said, well, good. If you read the first 2 pages, did you read the part where I said, I thank my grandmother for me being here, my mother for being here, because I could have been left for dead because I was born premature and they thought I was going to tell my mother I was dead. And
Mm-hmm.
you for giving me the opportunity that I had. Did you read that dedication? He said, well, I mean, I just read it. I said, never mind, man. It's good. Never
Right.
mind. Don't worry. I won't write it. And I left. He called me 2 days later, asked me to come out to Paisley. I
Mm-hmm.
go out there and we start talking. And he says, well, everything all right with you? I'm like, everything's fine, man. He's like, well, do you need anything? I'm like, no, I don't need anything, dude. I'm just, he's like, well, how do you feel about not writing a book? And I was like, is that why you called me out here? That's all you had to say.
Right.
That's
Right.
all you had to say. I was like, I'm a little disappointed because I wouldn't write anything negative about you. I
Mm-hmm.
said, I have nothing but positive stuff to say about who you were in my life. And we had that conversation, so fast forward to the 2 years before he passed, and I went back out there. We didn't get a chance to sit down and have a conversation. At that time, Kirk was his main body guy, managing
Right.
him, whatever. And I asked Kirk then, I was like, hey man, you think you could let him know, I want to talk to him for a second? Because to me, at that time, I looked at him and he didn't look well to me.
Yeah.
He
Right.
looked very fragile. He had, and to say he lost weight would be like, well, he's already a little guy. No, he had lost some weight and he
Yeah.
looked a little different to me.
Yeah, I saw the picture. I know that you probably seen, well, you saw him in person, but it was a black and white photo and he's got a guitar. And when I first saw it, I said, wow, he doesn't look right.
He doesn't look
Yeah.
right.
But
And Kirk told me, and I'll never forget it because I kind of had words with Kirk after that sometime later. I'd go, hey, he goes, well, if I do it for you, I got to do it for everybody else. And I
right.
went, like, dude, are you serious right now? I'm like, I just want to talk to this brother. You know, it just bothered me what I saw, his physical. And I was like,
Right.
something ain't right, but, fast forward, I'm working my little security job at a place called Allianz Life Insurance. I was a security officer at the front desk. And, the stuff comes across the news. And I'm sitting there and I hear this thing, and then I get a phone call from somebody say, hey, have you watched any of the news? I'm like, no. They said, you might want to turn on a news station. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm on the computer trying to find a local news station, and it's all over the news. And I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And that's how I found out,
Right.
So I was, needless to say, I was a little hurt um, that Kirk didn't give me an opportunity to sit down and talk to him. Because I guess in my mind, if I'd have talked to him and I sensed something wasn't cool, I probably would have said something,
Right.
ask him, you all right?
Yeah.
what's going on with you, man? I mean, you always looked a little healthy to me. You're not looking, but I don't know. Things happen for a reason, man, and
Yeah,
after
shit.
that,
Right.
that
Go ahead.
situation, I talked to Kirk, and I told him how I felt about it, and he apologized and stuff, but it was just weird to me, that I didn't get that chance to really talk to him because before he would be calling me, and here I am trying
Yeah.
to get
Right.
at him.
Yeah, I guess if he's what he was going through, and the stuff
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came out, stuff wasn't really him. It's just probably that's withdraw from certain people, like friends like
yeah,
yourself, and yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's sad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because like I said, when I left the band, and I was at the time working at a daycare, man, and he called me all the time talking about, hey, what are you up to? Can you come out here? And I'm like, okay, cool, you know. And then when it stopped, I was just like, well, what the hell's going on? So I don't know, man. It's everybody. Everybody
Yeah.
views something different or whatever, and how they feel about it and whatever. I mean, I had a different relationship with him. It wasn't about the music. It wasn't about the bands. It was just, we just had conversation, real conversations. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, we talk we talk shit,
Right.
and he
Right.
would, little things that we, just that, and it just felt weird to me not to have a conversation with him again at that point. It's like, what's going on, But you just leave it alone and let it work its way out. So
Well, you had that special connection. Not a lot of people who were in the band necessarily had,
yeah,
working
I mean,
relationship.
everybody talks about their connection with him and what they had with him. Um, like I said, I got called by him to come just hang out. And so for me, that was real personal for me because I felt like I didn't really get a chance to do a lot of stuff in the band. And I
Mhm.
come and wonder, why would you call me and ask me to come out of everybody? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, obviously he treasured your friendship. So yeah.
and that's what I took. That's what I take from that, is that he
Right.
treasured the fact that I spoke my mind. And I'm still like that to this day. I might say stuff that gets under people's skin. Um, and I don't say I'm sorry for that. It's like certain things, I don't sugarcoat shit. I'm not going to sugarcoat for anybody. Um, it
Yeah. If
is
you
what
go
it
on
is.
Damon Dickson's Facebook page, you'll see once in a while you put out you speak your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just straightforward. It's like I respect everybody until you disrespect me. Um, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I uplift all the people that I've been in the band with. I always talk about how great they are,
Mhm.
all of them. I don't
Right.
care what they did.
Yeah.
Um, And then I just found out here last year, um, and it's really weird. I just found out that Maite had an album, and I was going, "Wait, what?"
Right.
And I
Children of
love
the
Maite
sun.
to
Right.
death, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, "You mean to tell me, out of everybody in this band, I'm the only person that didn't get nothing done?" And then I started thinking back to when I went through the situation with the MPG, and when they asked me to sit out and all this stuff, and I'm going, and then their manager telling me that I was unessential, to what they were doing. They could do music without me, blah blah blah, and all that stuff played back to back then. And I go, well, hell, maybe that's what it was. Shit, I'm not a musician, even though I would play what little percussion stuff they'd ask you to do,
Right.
and then background vocals. I was like, but that don't mean anything to nobody. So I was sitting there going, okay, I have to understand where she was coming from when she said it to me. Y'all can go out and play music, but you can't play music without a keyboard, drummer, bass player, guitar player, whatever. I
Mhm.
get it. I get it. Um, but I always looked at what we did with him and go, well, visually don't count.
I mean, this is my opinion on like the Game Boys, you guys dancing on the tours and all the videos and everything, just as important as someone who's playing guitar and bass. And, it was the whole ensemble. So
Exactly,
I,
exactly.
you'll
So,
always be a part of the MPG. That's fact.
well, I always say I'll be a part of the new power generation. I never
Yeah.
use
Right.
MPG because MPG was something after we left. He started using MPG
Okay. All right. New power
Like
generation.
that George Clinton thing.
Oh
You know
yeah.
how
P
George
Funk.
Clinton
Yeah.
has a bunch of different little groups.
Yeah.
So Prince kind of reminded me of that when it
Okay.
came down to after the original New Power generation. He put this MPG stuff together.
Okay.
And so if you look at that from that point when we left, and he did the Exodus album
Mhm.
with them guys, and then everything from that point on was MPG.
That's a good differentiation. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you're always a part of the new power generation, no doubt. So
I mean,
whatever.
that's the
Yeah.
only part I will acknowledge is that I was a part of that. Anything after that,
Yeah.
I have nothing to do with. Them guys are who they are. You know, that whole Shelby and Liv and the one chick, what's her name? I can't even think of her name. Anyway, and Kip Blackshire and them and all them guys that came up after that. Ronaldo,
Right.
all of them guys, Hannah, all them guys. They all are part of that MPG thing, and then going into Third Eye and all that stuff. So all incredible musicians. I can't, there's nothing I have negative to say about any of that stuff. So,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you before we wrap this up, a couple dance questions, then we'll talk about something you're doing
okay.
coming up. So Prince, of course, Dancing with the Heels, amazing to be able to do that. Do you think if he ever had regular shoes dancing, what kind of
Mhm.
dancer would he have been?
Who, Prince?
Yeah, if he had dropped down to the flat heel, would it?
Oh, listen, for sure, man. He'd be like he liked a lot of the stuff that we did,
Okay,
so he would definitely be, on that, remember the hip hop, break it down. And he loved getting funky. So
right.
he would be right in that hip hop shit.
Yeah. But the heels are, part of his
With the
lore
heels.
history.
With the
Yeah. I mean, he
heels.
got all the
Hey,
custom made
look,
shoes.
so Little Red Corvette, when he did the little shuffle to the side and he did the little thing on the ground with his legs, that
Right.
was breakdancing.
That's true. Was he wearing jeans back then in
Huh?
that video? It looked like he was wearing jeans in that video.
It was, well,
That was
okay,
rare.
so it might have looked like jeans, but it still was something he had made.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. It wasn't off the rack at
Right,
Penny's
it
or,
wasn't off the rack at Nordstrom.
yeah, Nordstrom's. Yeah. All right. Another question. Being you such a talented dancer all these years, were you a big fan of Soul Train, of course?
Of course,
Yeah.
Soul Train, American Bandstand.
Who were go ahead.
All the dancers that were on there was a lot of dancers that came through that thing. I mean, I watched all these different dancers, but my thing was when the Lockers came out. I don't know if you remember the
Yeah,
Lockers.
yeah.
When they came out, I was glued to the TV.
Okay.
That was me. Like I grew up listening to James Brown. I grew up trying to dance like James Brown.
Right.
Because that back then he was the only entertainer that was actually doing any dance stuff that made you be like, "Woo, James!"
Yeah.
So when the Lockers came along, I was like, "Oh my god!" So I'm like really picking up that stuff.
Mhm.
So for me, that was, if I'm putting myself in a category with dancers, that's the dancer stuff that I was doing.
Yeah.
That
I was
break
more of an
dancing,
early 80s.
yeah,
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 but that was
yeah,
that was a great era too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when breakdancing broke out in the early '80s,
Right.
you know, that was like something totally different. I mean, I dislocated a finger dancing it, break dancing.
Wow. You put the cardboard mat down?
You know what? Never did that pipe, but we always get on something that would look like, it had some shininess to it so you can do it.
My wife tells me my wife used to be a professional ballroom dance
Oh,
champion,
okay.
and her ex-husband, she was telling me a story when breakdancing came out. They dance competitively, that he wanted to do breakdance, and so they set it up in the living room and he was trying to do it. She said he kicked over a couple lamps. It was like it was he didn't pursue that too far. He stuck to the
I
ballroom
get,
dance.
look, that break dancing will either break you or make you.
Right.
And most times it's breaking you.
Yeah, yeah, right. So okay, let me get it before we get off. You told me before we got on the air, you're doing something really inspirational coming up and
Yeah.
going to talk to some youth and relating some of your experience growing up that could help them. How did you get into it, and what are you going to be doing?
Actually, I'm trying to get more into going to speak to kids at schools, especially the underprivileged kids, schools that don't have big entertainment, like bands and theater type stuff in their schools. So I kind of like the idea of going to talk to kids like that because they don't get that opportunity to have someone come in that have probably come from the same background that they have. Um, I'm actually going to be in Louisville uh, and going to a school tomorrow to talk to some kids, underprivileged kids, about what I used to do and how I got to that.
Right,
So
right.
basically, I'll be explaining that I'm in the same shoes they are. I grew up poor, didn't have a lot. My mother didn't have a lot. Um, I love playing sports and dancing. My mother didn't have money to put me through a school for dance, and didn't have money to pay for me to play sports all the time. So I was always under the free programs,
Mhm.
So understanding that and knowing that they, probably have the same thing. So I'm going to be going to talk to these kids about what I used to do, how I grew up, and how I got into that, and what it takes to do that. Um, um, just to try to uplift them and maybe they'll see something and like, oh my God, if he could do that, I could do that, So, and I can't think of the name of the school, but I will. I think when I do go, I'm going to have somebody either do me live
Oh,
on my
okay.
phone so I can have, they can follow me through it or whatever. So
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be one, hopefully, of many. You know, visits
hopefully,
to other school.
hopefully,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
you got a lot to offer, especially.
Yeah,
You
yeah. So
know,
that's going to be one of the things I'm going to be doing here real soon. That's tomorrow. And like I said before we got on the air, I'm trying to get into finishing up doing something on this book that
right,
I'm trying to
right.
write. Um, that hopefully to have that finished come within the new year, the next few months of it. So
Yeah. So we got a lot to look forward to and great
I don't know if
stories.
it's a lot, but it'll be
Yeah, yeah.
something to look forward to.
Where's the best place that our viewers and listeners can get a hold of you and follow what you're doing?
Well, my Facebook page at Damon Dickson.
Mhm.
On Instagram is Dixon_Damon 12, I think it is.
Okay.
You can catch me on there. I don't mess with X because there's some people I don't really mess with none of that stuff.
Yeah, I jumped ship. I'm on Blue
Yeah,
Sky.
jump chip on that X
Yeah,
stuff. If you're on X, you need to get off of it because you ain't doing nothing but supporting
yeah,
craziness. But
yeah, exactly.
anyway, I'm not on there. And there's a new thread that's out now. People have been asking me about, they said, are you joining? I'm like, I think Facebook and Instagram is enough for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's tough getting. I mean, personally, connecting people as far as musicians and everything. It's more like of a search. I mean, you're easy to contact. Always been easy to talk with, but I'm on Instagram. You're trying to find an email on a website and everything. It used to be a lot easier. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Well, I got an email address. I mean, if people's trying to get in touch with me email wise, I mean, you can catch me on Yahoo. Like daytime, day 30 day at Yahoo.
Right.
Com, or I got a website for my clothing line. I
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
really set it all up yet, but I got a day page for my day wear.
Yeah. So
And it has
is that the hat one of the?
exactly, yeah.
Oh,
So I
cool.
did this one for commemorating the Purple Rain thing that me
Oh,
and
wow.
Kirk and Tony had did. So I wound up coming up with this idea, and I'm like, hey, DDW
Yeah.
with the raindrops on it.
That's sharp. Yeah, that looks
Yeah.
really good. I
So
mean, I'm not even. We're on the computer, and you could tell it looks really sharp.
yeah,
The
yeah,
logo.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, and that's what I've been up to and doing on that. But if people want to, I'm going to try to get that rolling into the new year too, because I've had people asking me for certain shirts that I had. Um, you know, and it's when you're doing it yourself, and I don't have a site I can send people to, it
Yeah,
becomes a little much. So
right. But yeah, you're doing what you love, and we're looking forward to all the upcoming projects 2025, and we got to make
yeah.
this more regular. My fault for Damon Dickson to
Well,
come by the
it's been
show.
a while since we've seen each other and chatted. So
I
yeah,
know it's like going back to the core.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you know, it's funny. I look back and I put the promotion on prince.org when you were on back then. And like people were, I guess they knew of the core and they were making all complimentary stuff about what you guys were doing. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So I promise I'm going to be more on top of and contact you for coming on because you definitely always nice to speak with.
Oh man, I appreciate it, Joe. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man. And as always, I'm humbled by anybody wanting me to come talk about anything because I'm not that. And it's just me saying this, and it's what I've always been. I'm not the main character or none of the big names that have had the chance to grace that stage with him. I'm just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm thinking back to a former colleague of mine, Jehovah's Witness. He used to write on like somebody is retiring or something. He'd always say, we're all spokes in the wheel, similar to
Yeah,
what you said.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Right. So you've definitely been a huge part of the Minneapolis sound and Prince's world and your own world, Damon Dickson. So I got to thank you, brother, for coming by. We're going to be,
Yes, sir.
you'll hear
Yes,
this
sir.
on Apple, you'll hear it on Spotify, you'll hear it on all the podcasts, and of course on YouTube and our Mixcloud station. So thanks for spending the time and
Uh,
have fun out in Louisville.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Kurt. It's just been Joe. It's been amazing the last year here with everything that I've been involved in, and I'm always humbled by people, giving me an opportunity. So
Yeah.
with you coming me come on, Joe, is just another humbling moment for
Yeah,
me.
you're definitely loved. So, thanks, Damon.
Yeah, yeah, man.
All
Appreciate it.
right.
All
Peace.
right.